Happy 2022 and welcome everyone. My name is Dave Miller, Little League Western Region instructor and umpire-in-chief for California District 31. Welcome to our 5-part training series on the Little League Rulebook. These sessions are designed for all parties, including Little League presidents, board of directors, managers, coaches, scorekeepers, and most importantly, our adult and youth umpires. Feel free to share these sessions in groups or with individuals directly. I'm pleased to have with us Gary Graupmann, who is a Little League Western Region rules trainer and fellow California District 31 staff umpire. Gary will take us through the rulebook in these sessions, and know that if you have any questions on the material, feel free to reach out to your local league UIC or even Gary and I at any time throughout the season. Lastly, but certainly not least, please know that Little League does not happen without our amazing volunteers like you. You're a significant part of the hundreds of thousands of Little League volunteers worldwide, and whether you know it or not, you're making a huge difference in your communities. So on behalf of Little League's Western Region, thank you and enjoy the videos. All right, let's get started with session number 2. Gary, take it away.
Good day, Western Region volunteers. Welcome to our second session, which today we're going to focus on the definitions from Rule 2 and the baseball pitcher in Rule 8. Without the right terms and the understanding of the definition, the rules and regulations, which form a framework for how we manage our games, do not do you any good. Basic memorization of the rules does not give you good understanding of how the game should be played. If you apply the specifics of the rules with the proper context, this will promote confidence when you're on the field and also leads to more easily explained definitions. And that is a key point. When you have a manager's discussion, you want to be able to be clear and concise and use language that the manager will understand as you explain why a situation is the way it is. Rule 2, by and large, tells you what. It tells you what interference is. It tells you what obstruction is. Then we go to rules 3, 5, 6, and 7 to find out, how do I handle it? What's the so what after I've determined that a situation has occurred in accordance with the definitions? We'll start off with one of the more important. In flight is a live ball, batted, thrown, or pitched, which has not touched the ground, nor has it deflected off an umpire, a runner, or a batter runner. Deflections, such as our friend here, Jose Canseco, headbutting a fly ball over the fence, is still a live ball because it did not touch the umpire, runner, or batter runner. A catch. One of our most basic definitions. A fielder gains control of a ball in hand or glove while the ball is still in flight and proves complete control of the ball. Voluntary and intentional release of the ball needs to be demonstrated in almost every case. Once complete control is demonstrated, the ball may be juggled or dropped on transfer from the hand in order to make a follow-on play. As long as control is demonstrated, dropping the ball on that transfer does not impact the validity of the catch. An additional factor may come up sometimes that the umpire will decide the fielder gained control of the ball after his momentum or her momentum has been regained while maintaining possession. This situation may seem a little strange, but little Johnny is out in right field, makes the catch on the fly ball, comes trotting in and trips over second base, dropping the ball. Clearly, that is going to be a catch, even though voluntary release was not demonstrated. Also, a couple of additional things that have no impact on whether the umpire judges a catch to be valid. Doesn't matter how long the fielder held the ball if he doesn't get control. And how long before an impact with the ground and fence or another player happens, it does not matter. If an in-flight ball deflects off of any player, umpire, fence, prior to control of the ball by the fielder, that ball is no longer in flight and does not qualify as a catch. Here's a quick example of a situation where you've got a ball that is dropped on the transfer. Fly the ball out to right field. Right fielder comes in, makes the catch, and reaches in to make the play and drops the ball on transfer. We'll get a second look, a little bit better angle on it. The catch, the ball moves a little bit in the glove, but still he had demonstrated control before he reached in to make the transfer, to make the throw for the follow-on play. So in this situation, we do have a valid catch. A tag play. It's the action of a fielder touching a base with any part of the body while the ball is securely held in the hand or glove. This normally happens in a force play, for example, on the front end of a double play at second, where the fielder makes the catch and steps on first base, or excuse me, second base. Or touching a runner with the ball held securely in the hand or glove directly is a tag. Whether the ball is held securely long enough to complete the tag is an umpire's judgment call. Voluntary and intentional release of the ball is not required on a tag play. An example of this would be a situation where we have the bases loaded, ground ball back to the pitcher, who then throws to the catcher who is standing on home plate. The tag is completed when the catcher shows control of the ball in his glove. The runner from third slides in 2 or 3 seconds later, knocks the catcher down, dislodging the ball. The tag was completed, the out is recorded, voluntary release was not demonstrated, but the tag was satisfactorily made. Illegal bat. We'll talk much more about this in Rule 606, but basically, year before last, Little League added that the addition of pine tar makes a bat illegal. We're looking for, in our pregame inspections, we're looking for length, weight, diameter, and labeling to make sure that the bat is appropriate for the division it's being used in. A cracked or a damaged bat that meets specification is not illegal. It is simply damaged. Remove the damaged bat without penalty. All action which occurred with that bat is legal until it's removed. For example, you may have a crack in a metal bat. You may have the splintering in the end of the bat or in the cup section of a wooden bat. Simply remove it without penalty. All action that occurred with that bat is going to be legal. Once again, we stress the manager is fully responsible for the legality and safety of every piece of equipment that his team is using. A strike. Legal pitch which meets one of the following 7 conditions. Swung at and missed, passes through the strike zone in flight, fouled off with less than 2 strikes, bunted foul, touches the batter as the batter swings at it, a pitch which touches the batter in flight, and the pitch would have passed through the strike zone, or a pitch which becomes a foul tip. Any of these 7 is going to be deemed a strike. It'd be easy to say, well, any pitch that isn't a strike is a ball, but there are a couple of additional things going on here. It doesn't pass through the strike zone in flight and is not offered at by the batter. It may be a ball, but a pitch which bounces in, if swung at and missed or fouled off with less than 2 strikes, is a strike, whether it bounces or not. A pitch which bounces may be batted into play, and a pitch which bounces in and touches the batter results in the batter being awarded first base. The strike zone. Something that we study year after year after year and continue to sharpen your skills at properly recognizing what it is. 3-dimensional space between the batter's armpits and top of the batter's knees over home plate. Normal stance, natural stance by the batter determines the strike zone. Remember, the strike zone does not move as the batter moves within the batter's box. So whether the batter moves well forward, well back, moves away from the plate, that strike zone remains fixed over home plate. Picture here, we got a pitch that comes in. The catcher catches it well below the batter's knees, but it passed through the 3-dimensional zone. That's a strike. So you got to track carefully and make sure you see the pitch as it passes through the 3-dimensional strike zone. A foul tip. Batted ball going sharp and direct from the bat to the catcher's hand or glove and is legally caught. It cannot first touch the catcher's gear or body and cannot be caught by someone else. For example, the third baseman charging in on a bunt, if it bounces off the catcher's glove, cannot be caught by the third baseman to be ruled a foul tip. You treat a foul tip just like a swing and a miss. The ball remains live. If it's a third strike, the batter is going to be out, and runners may advance on a foul tip. Here we see one of our Western Region instructors illustrating what a foul tip signal is going to look like. Remember, unlike Major League Baseball, which changed their definition of foul tip this year, Little League remains this definition. Fair ball. Any one of these 5 conditions determines a fair ball. If the ball stops, settles between home and first or home and third, or it touches first, second, or third base, it's a fair ball. If it's a bounding ball and it goes past first or third base in or on fair territory, that's going to be a fair ball. If it first touches an umpire or player over fair territory and then bounds foul, it's going to be a fair ball. If it first lands on fair territory beyond first or third base, it's a fair ball. Regardless if the ball hits in the outfield grass and spins backward into foul territory, it's going to be a fair ball. And lastly, if it leaves the field in flight all over fair territory, it's going to be a fair ball. A couple of additional considerations. Always judge fair and foul based on the position of the ball relative to the foul line, not the position of the fielder. Home plate, first base, third base, and all foul lines are in fair territory, which is why it's important for the grounds crew to work with you to make sure we get those fair and foul lines in the right spots. There are no foreign objects in fair territory. By foreign object, we're talking about a helmet or a bat that's dropped, something like that. A live fair ball touching one of these foreign objects, like a bat or a batting helmet, lying on the ground before passing first or third base, does not affect the condition of the live ball. So if I have a ball which strikes a dropped helmet for some reason and then rebounds into foul territory before first or third base, that's going to be a foul ball, even though it struck the object in fair territory. If a foreign object like a bat or a helmet is on the ground in foul territory, that's going to be a foul ball. Bunt. It's a batted ball, which is met intentionally with the bat, not swung at, and is tapped slowly, hopefully into fair territory. Now, one would ask, why do I care whether it's a batted ball or if I call it a bunt? Well, we recognize that if you bunt a ball foul with 2 strikes, that is going to be an out. We're not allowing a player to continuously bunt the ball foul and run the pitch count up in that kind of a situation. So a bunt which goes foul on the 3rd strike is going to be an out. Also, we're worried about whether or not a bunt which goes 30 feet in the air and can be easily caught by an infielder, is that going to be an infield fly? Well, by definition of our infield fly, we know that it's not going to be a line drive or a bunt to be classified as an infield fly. Ordinary effort by an infielder or any player who is close enough to be judged to be near the infield. We do this call only with runners on first and second or bases loaded with less than 2 outs. What this does, it protects the offense against an unwarranted double play by the defense, who simply might let a routine catch drop to the ground and then quickly get a double or even a triple play in that situation. Umpires declare infield fly, the batter is out. Remember, however, an infield fly is just like any other fly ball. The ball is going to remain live on the infield fly. The runners may advance in jeopardy. You also need to consider the variables involved potentially before an infield fly is declared. We're not going to rule a senior infield fly with the same level that we would a minors division game. If your wind is gusting on a given day, that may impact whether or not the fielder is able to make ordinary effort to make a catch. So you will consider the wind when judging an infield fly. The sun, well, doesn't that cause a player to lose the ball and could make it harder to make the catch? The players need to be trained to get their glove up to shield their eyes and make the catch on a fly ball. So a sun is not necessarily considered a variable which would negate an infield fly possibility. The key throughout this situation is both teams must know the rules. When you have a situation, unfortunately, if the infield fly is improperly called or the infield fly is not called when it should be, the teams need to play within the rules so that they don't end up getting cross-threaded with the umpires. Force play. It's a situation where a runner legally loses the right to remain on a base because the batter has become a runner. For example, runner on first base, ground ball in the infield, that runner on first must advance to second because the batter runner has to move to first. When you have a third out scored on a force play, no runs will score on that. Situation, basically a runner on third with 2 outs, ground ball to second, throw to first for the third out. That runner from third, even though he may have crossed home plate before the out at first, that run is not going to score. When you end up with a preceding runner or batter at first appeals, no run is going to score. When a batter runner does not reach first base safely, it's not technically a force play, but the rules regarding scoring runs are equivalent in this case. Here we got a situation where we've got a pop up down the left field line. Ball hits the line.
In Greenville, ball in the air, down the left field line.
Hits the line. Runner on first didn't break quickly enough. We've got the force there at second. Notice again that the fielder gloves the ball with his foot on the base to complete the tag for this force play. Now, there are 3 situations which we're going to cover under definitions, which are not in Rule 2 in the rule book, but are equivalent to definitions that we need to use. The first off is time play. A play in which the third out on any runner is made for any reason, which is not a force play. To determine whether a run scores on a play where the third out is made, the umpire's got a rule that the runner scoring beat the tag for the third out. Appeals for the third out, which are not force plays, are time plays. So for example, you got a runner on second, batter hits the ball to the outfield, runner on second misses third and then comes home. Batter runner comes all the way around to score. The defense then appeals R2 missing third for the third out. That takes the batter runners inside the park home run off the board. And then there are things that are called fourth out considerations. These are always going to be appeal plays on the bases where after the third out is legally made, we find that either somebody didn't retouch at a base correctly or they missed a base and the fourth out is recorded, which may allow the defense to remove a run from the board. So just recognize that the defense has the option to enforce that fourth out to their advantage. And finally, a play. Live ball situation where the ball and the runner, offensive player come together. A play can be any tag, any force or time play, any throw to try to retire a runner, a balk or legal pitch. Those are all examples of plays. Remember, it's important to understand how long a play exists. It runs from the fielder's first motion to field the ball, through gloving and holding the ball, and then making a throw to complete the play. So just because the runner has avoided the fielder up to the point of making the catch, that runner can still interfere with the fielder's throw to the base to make the play. So the play is defined as that duration of time. Lastly, the baseline is set when a tag play starts. It could be on a force or a time play. The moment the tag is initiated, straight lines are drawn from the runner to the forward base or the runner to the trail base. Those define the baseline slant base path that the runner must maintain 3-foot distance or it's a violation. While on a rundown, the base path or baseline may change each time the runner changes direction. in a strange Keystone Cops kind of a situation, we may end up with the runner actually being 10, 15 feet away from the direct line in the course of a rundown. There are 14 other terms which we're going to cover actually when we cover the rules. It takes a lot of time, and without examples, we lose some of the training value of these 14 different terms. So we'll cover those a little bit later on down the line. But those are the 14 we're going to be revisiting in the course of our other sessions.
Gary, I have a question for you, if I may.
Yeah, Dave.
This just came in from a viewer. You were talking about the levels of play with regards to infield fly, and maybe infield fly in the juniors division is a little bit different from the 10-year-old division. Is that also true with the strike zone?
The strike zone is one of those things that as an umpire, a manager, or coach, you recognize is the personal property of the umpire. You're hoping you get consistency. You may be in a situation where in a senior or a juniors game, your strike zone is half a ball on the outside or the inside edge of the plate. When you get to a minors game or in the very beginnings of your kid pitch, you may end up 2 balls outside and something that's by definition hittable. Ideally, in my mind, my personal opinion, we want the kids to learn to swing at pitches that they can hit. So something hittable is great. You don't want to have nose to toes, but you do want to have something that gives the kids a chance to be competitive. Back to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Gary. Proceed.
We're moving on to Rule 8 now. Our pitcher. This is one of those areas where we have to go to the regulations to get some on the field guidance for how the game is played. In baseball, any player may pitch except one who is caught for 4 or more innings on a given day. This abbreviation that I use here is a situation that illustrates if you start as a catcher, move to a pitcher, and then go back to catcher again, these are the limitations you've got to recognize. You catch for 3 innings or less, you may pitch that day. It's always a day situation. Then if the player throws 20 pitches or less, 30 if he's in the senior division, then the player may return as a catcher that day. So 3 innings or less, 20 pitches or less, you can go catcher, pitcher, catcher in the course of the day. There's an exception which runs through a lot of these pitching and catching rules. And it has to do with limiting the number of changes required while a batter is at the plate. So if a pitcher reaches those 20 pitches while the batter is at bat, the pitcher may continue until the batter is retired, reaches base, or makes the 3rd out. Then if the player is removed as a pitcher, it's as if the player honored the 20 pitch limitation. If the player throws 21 pitches and goes to the next batter, then the 20 pitch limit has been exceeded, obviously, and the player cannot return as a catcher that day. This type of exception shows up in 3 other places that we'll talk about briefly. Any player on the team may catch, except one who has thrown 40 pitches or more that day. When you throw 40 pitches or less, the players can catch in that game. If they throw 40 pitches in a game, the player's not allowed to catch for that day. Exception comes up again that if you reach the 40 pitch limit while a batter is up, you can finish the batter until the batter reaches base or makes the 3rd out. Remove the pitcher at that point, the player can return as a catcher. I want to make the point here that the threshold requires you to reach that number while the batter is actively engaged. If the batter makes an out and you're at 40 pitches, this exception does not apply. You've got to be at 39 or fewer starting the batter to pass through 40 and then allow you to continue. That's a point that is very important. You cross the threshold, you don't reach the threshold. Our pitchers, once again, in majors and below, once removed, the pitcher cannot return. In the upper divisions, they remain, if they remain in the game, they can return to pitch once per game. Important point here. If a pitcher is removed and the substitute is found to be ineligible, the original pitcher may not return at that point. Even if in the upper divisions, the pitcher could remain in the game and return, he cannot come back at that moment. You've got to go through a relief pitcher who meets the requirements of Rule 305 and then bring that pitcher back in at that point. Here is a table summary of our pitching limits for baseball. And regardless of the previous day's pitch count, a pitcher may not pitch on 3 consecutive days. So even if a pitcher throws 1 pitch on Monday, 1 pitch on Tuesday, that pitcher cannot pitch on Wednesday. Got to honor at least a day's rest in that situation. One of the important changes that came about this year is, in addition to the league having an official pitch count recorder for each game, pitch count is being determined for days rest threshold in a slightly different fashion. The limit now is set by the first pitch to the batter as the threshold is crossed becomes the pitch count. Pitcher may then finish the batter or the inning. If the pitcher is removed before the next batter, then the pitcher observes the day's rest for the pitch count set by the first pitch to that batter. The pitcher cannot return immediately if you found you've got an ineligible pitcher. If found before a live ball is pitched, for example, in the middle of the warm-up tosses, you simply remove that pitcher with no protest. If the pitcher who is ineligible has thrown a pitch, then a protest is allowable. For suspended games resumed on a later date, the pitcher of record may continue provided the day's rest threshold are satisfied for that day. So for example, you have a situation where a game is suspended. 2 weeks later, the teams come together to play again. You play that last inning or second, 2 extra innings on ahead of the regularly scheduled game. If the pitcher has met their day's rest for the week in question, then that pitcher, who is a pitcher of record, may continue. Let's talk about the mechanics of baseball pitching. There are 2 legal positions, the windup and the set. From those positions, the pitcher may deliver a pitch to the batter, may step and throw directly to an occupied base, or may disengage with the pitcher's foot, the pitcher's plate with the pivot foot, and at that point, that pitcher becomes an infielder. In order to avoid quick pitches, pitchers shall take signs from the catcher while engaged with the pitcher's plate or appear to do so. That's an important distinction that sometimes managers want to give the signs directly to the pitcher. As long as the pitcher appears to be taking the sign from the catcher and is not quick pitching, we're going to allow that. More information on the windup. You're facing a batter, pivot foot in contact with the rubber, the other foot is free. It's important to recognize here, pivot foot in contact, the other foot free, behind the rubber, on the rubber, or forward of the rubber. Hands can be apart or together at the start of the windup. Once you start the pitch, you've got to finish the pitch. Neither foot may be lifted until the pitch occurs. And backward or forward step with a free foot is allowed. As we said before, deliver the pitch, step and throw to a base, or disengage are the allowed actions from the windup position. Set position, pivot foot on the rubber, other foot in front of the rubber. You'll notice that we've got allowance for a pivot foot to be in front of the rubber from either the set or the windup position. Hands should be broken and ball in either hand when the pitcher steps onto the pitcher's plate. When you have a stretch, the pitcher must come to a complete and absolutely discernible stop. From the set position again, the pitcher can conduct one of these three things. Pitcher, changed from 2 years ago, shall not bring the pitching hand in contact with the mouth while on the pitcher's plate. Pitcher must always wipe the hands before touching the ball. Umpire shall call a ball, warn the pitcher that repeated violations can cause the removal as a pitcher. Intentional misconduct, such as delaying the game for any one of these reasons: throwing the ball around while the batter's ready, committing an illegal pitch for the purpose of not pitching to the batter. For example, trying to give an intentional base on balls without throwing pitches. After warning, the removal of the pitcher may be warranted if the pitcher continues the misconduct. Intentionally throwing at a batter requires a warning to the pitcher and the manager. The next instance after the warning requires ejection if you're convinced that the pitcher is intentionally throwing at the batter. Minors divisions, multiple unintentional hit by pitches is a discretionary situation that is not an ejection situation for those younger players. You need to work with the managers, work with the parents to have the kids practice their pitching until they can throw proper strikes. No more than 8 prep pitches at the beginning of an inning or when a new pitcher comes in. The time starts for a continuing pitcher when the third out is made. If you have a pitching injury, the umpire will allow enough warm-ups to protect the arm of the pitcher. And with no runners on base, pitcher must deliver a pitch within 20 seconds. I don't know about you, but 20 seconds is forever. Illegal pitches and balks. It's an illegal pitch for the following conditions: pitcher starts and stops, fakes the throw to first base while still engaged with the pitcher's plate, doesn't step directly to any base when throwing, quick pitch, unnecessarily delays the game, or stands astride the rubber or while off the rubber fakes a pitch, i.e. the hidden ball trick, or if the pitcher drops the ball. If it's an illegal pitch or balk with no runners on base, you call nothing except for the quick pitch and the hidden ball trick on F. Those then become a ball to the batter. Here's a situation that we don't have in softball.
Here's the bottom of the eighth, man on first, nobody down.
Hey, that's a balk. Oh, it's a huge balk.
You got to call that ball.
Ridiculous balk. I've never seen a more blatant balk. You bogus balk. Textbook balk. See, blind, that's such a balk.
What exactly is a balk?
A balk. That's when the
Little bit fuzzy even in the bar about what a balk really is. An illegal pitch is a ball to the batter. If a play follows the illegal pitch, the manager has an option to accept the play or decline the illegal pitch. If all runners, including the batter runner, advance one base, there is no manager's option. If a batter is hit by an illegal pitch, he or she shall be awarded first base without reference to the illegal pitch. Visiting the pitcher, once per inning, the second time out, the pitcher must be removed. Twice in a game, third time out, the pitcher must be removed. This is for majors and above. Minors and below get one additional visit on each of those situations. The manager coach can visit with any player during any visit. If the manager makes an indication of a pitching change prior to talking with any defensive player, no visit is charged to the pitcher. In the upper divisions, when a pitcher re-enters, the visits are accumulated from the first time pitching. And when the defense is granted a charged visit, the manager coach of the offensive team may be allowed to make an uncharged visit as long as it happens within the duration of the original charged timeout. David, that's completing Rule 8. Do we have any questions that came in?
Yeah, a question just came in on the charge visit. If the defense has a timeout that was granted in the offense, I'm sorry, the defensive manager wants to come out and talk to the pitcher, does it matter if he crosses the line, or can he just go all the way out and break so long as the other one breaks at the same time?
the Little League doesn't have a line determination situation. So any communication like that, as long as it's within the bounds of the charged timeout, whether offense or defense, is what determines the situation.
Perfect. And I would assume the umpire would then, as soon as the offense breaks, tell the defensive manager that's come out, hey, it's time to go unless you want to stay for a visit.
Exactly so.
Perfect. Well, great information today on session number 2. Gary, thank you so much for your time. I hope you all enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you on session number 3.